Thank you for joining us today for Net-Zero OPEX for S/4HANA migration with AI strategy. We're going to have a robust conversation with industry experts who will help us learn how our companies can go through SAP migration with a little less pain, but a sense of urgency. Not only will you find ways to make it more effective, but you will discover the ROI, the cost benefits of working with a team in making this migration actually happen. So please join us as we move into this conversation, hosted by myself and Richard Fitzharris with World IT COE, who could be your partners in helping make your SAP migration not only smooth, but less painful for you and your company. I'm Dr. Jeannie Snyder, and let's step into this conversation. Welcome to the show. We are here for Net-Zero OPEX for SAP migration with AI strategy. I am Dr. Jeannie Snyder, and I'm thrilled again to be here on an episode with experts in the field. I'd like to introduce to you Richard Fitzharris, Mike Nguyen, and John Walsh. They will each introduce themselves. And when we are talking about what this does for your business and how it affects the changes coming up, in less than a year and a half, we want to make sure that you're paying attention to how this team can help you. So I will first go to Richard Fitzharris. Introduce what your role is here and how you're working with this team.
Sounds great, Jeannie. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Richard Fitzharris. I bring about 20 years background in SAP, in and around SAP environments, around the oil, gas, chemical, and mining industries and financial services. And what we bring today is really an SME leadership team on this podcast. In the next 30 minutes, you'll hear from all of us and our strengths and our prowess. But we're helping clients move from ECC to S/4HANA strategically with minimum change to their systems, minimum business interruption, along with an AI strategy that's critical. They do that at the same time. So that's some of the themes we'll talk about today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd next like to introduce John Walsh with Black Dog Cloud. And John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, my name's John Walsh, and I'm one of the co-founders of Black Dog. So we started the business around about 5 years ago. My background's similar to Rich, about 20 years working in SAP, moving big SAP systems into the cloud. And part of that journey, if you like, was discovering that many people who migrate to the cloud leave a lot of legacy systems around, and they don't know what to do with them. And that's where Black Dog came from. We help customers to manage those legacy systems, help them to decommission them. It's essentially getting rid of the system, but keeping hold of the important data that's often held in them systems.
You're helping us clean out our closets. That's great.
Exactly that.
Okay. All right, great. And I'd like to introduce Mike Nguyen with Amazon. Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys. Thanks for the introduction. So I've been in the IT industry 25 years, predominantly in big vendor worlds, namely people like IBM, BMC, and some of the big guys out there that are doing all sorts of things across all sorts of industries and market sectors. I'm the UK MD of a company called Amazon, and particularly this is a leading IT consultancy and managed service provider, and we specialize in a bunch of different topics: usability, observability, detectability, and reliability, all these things that come out as part of being sort of an operator in that space. We have an interesting demographic of being mostly European and German based in our foundership. So we started the business in 1999. So we're 27 years young as it stands today, and going strong.
That's really great and impressive. And I love the combination of the three of you here. Mike, I'm going to throw it right back to you to sort of set the stage today for why is this important to customers? I mean, we know we need to do it, but why is this migration so important to customers, and how does this team come in and help from your perspective, especially because the observability, a big piece in actually seeing what's going on?
Yeah, I think namely this is a massive environment that's very complex, and anyone that knows anyone in SAP will be able to testify to that much. So when you're looking at things like a migration, especially the bigger and more complex environments in this area, the obvious piece that comes with that is a lot of pre-preparation and a lot of understanding of what is the risk associated to this, what is the business case associated to it, and so on. So Mostly it's one of those environments that has a lot of it has a high need for your SMEs to be really giving you great advice to be able to do that transition smoothly.
All right, I love that, and you've got SMEs here on the stage with you, John or Rich. Would you like to jump in on that, just to give some from your perspective
Absolutely.
and your role?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, the key is trusted data, clean core. And a lot of clients today really do not have a clean core. They have many legacy APIs, many environments. They've been bought and sold several times over the past decade in many instances. So legacy systems that don't communicate, aren't connected upon legacy systems. And now they want to move that to a new future state, which is where we come in. The team, Mike, with Michael's leadership, we have the SMEs, and we can help them with a 2, 4, or 6 week assessment to come in at a board level, develop a board level reporting document at the end of our assessment that shows them the current state and really how to navigate towards a future better state, all while keeping their OPEX as close to net zero, that's the goal, as possible, and weaving in that AI strategy into that future state. This is critical. This is a junction for many companies that are coming up to, and they have to think correctly. And this is the value we bring on the call today, and this is the value we can bring to the leadership. But John, maybe you can talk a little bit about legacy data. We talked about clean core and legacy data and the cost savings around that. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in my experience, as I say, I mean, I've worked in this, in the SAP sector for quite a long time now. Also, a little bit with Oracle as well. This applies across the board, really. That, as Rich said, companies, as they grow, they often merge, they often acquire other companies. What that tends to do is it builds a very complex environment within those companies. That complex environment often leads to multiple systems, multiple instances of SAP, multiple instances of whatever your main kind of ERP system is. And obviously surrounding those ERP systems, there is always, in some cases, hundreds of other systems that are interfacing with that data. So the clean core, as Rich said, is vitally important, especially as we go into this world of AI, because you need that clean kind of set of data, the single source of truth that you can apply the AI tools and AI systems to. But aside from that, very often when people embark on these migrations, what they don't want to do, and it can get extremely expensive if you do this, is they don't want to take 20 years worth of data with them to the cloud, because that, it means you have to build huge systems in the cloud, very expensive to run those systems. So often what they'll do is they'll take a subset of data to their new environment. This is the latest and greatest environment with the clean core, all of that. But then what's often left behind is all of these orphan systems, if you like, which we call legacy systems. Now, often what clients will do is they'll want to keep that data for obvious reasons. Sometimes it's valuable data in terms of financial data. It could be it could be regulatory. So, for example, in pharmaceutical industry, you need to keep data for around about 30 years. You can't just delete all that data, because obviously it's people's health and well-being and that kind of thing. So there's many reasons why people hang on to these legacy systems. But as those systems age, licenses, expire, operating systems become out of support, hardware is failing very often. So we have a particular solution that enables us to extract the data from those systems, give people access to that data via a cloud-based system without them having to hang on to those legacy hardware and software systems.
With the cost savings, John, a range?
Yeah, so cost savings can vary in this, but I've seen cost savings upwards of 60-70% for people, because if you're running, especially if you work in a regulated industry, you're running old systems, but you're still paying support for those systems. So people are paying for colo, they're paying for support, they're paying for maintenance, that all of those expenses rack up. When we extract that data, they can often get rid of all of those costs and just have a single monthly cost for accessing their legacy data, which, is very, very valuable.
Spot on. Excellent.
I think that's important. You know, you're paying all of we don't think of all the associated costs. So you
Yeah.
think about what you need for that, but all the associated costs, it's the extra insurance for that auto you've just left in the garage somewhere. So I'm going to pass it back to Mike to talk a little bit more about the assessment. And we've now talked about kind of both ends, the assessment at the beginning and then the legacy programs at the end. So let's talk about the middle. What happens after that assessment forward?
Well, I'll bring up. I think people in the audience might be wondering why I'm partnering with the guys on the call, and we could potentially.
I'll
do
ask
this.
them. Are you wondering? We're wondering why Mike Wynn is here. That's right.
Yeah. So let me give you some highlights as to some of the benefits I see in working with the team on this call, because expertise aside, that there's lots of experts out there. There's lots of optionality, both with the vendors directly and partners. So I think it's quite interesting for me to pull out a few threads here, because I think the guys can talk to that and give your audience a bit of a view as to particularly this assessment which we're on this call about, why this is outstandingly different. Like, it's a thing that I think helps Amersol set itself apart with its customers. And we've got big brands that expect quite a lot from when we're giving advice. Not only do you need to be a trusted advisor in that space, but you better come with a very good set of outputs and deliverables that are impactful to the business. So I'll touch on that, I think, because I think Rich and John are going to be able to come into that thread quite nicely. So the first thing I think, Rich, that I find really important for my customers is the board ready governance side. And when I say board ready, I mean it's a decision first output that CXOs across my customer base can really give themselves full accountability for. Because there's always question marks over the planning and the prerequisites and in the delivery of these types of migrations. And you do not want a situation where the risk appetite is a 50-50 chance where heads will roll and your own brand inside your own business is at stake because you've missed something, you've done something wrong, you've got your budget way off, etc. So I think the level of reporting that comes off the back of this assessment, considering how short it really is and how detailed it comes back, is outstanding. I think a second piece I would say is there's a kind of certainty around the commerciality of this. So imagine that you can go, that report also touched on that, but imagine you can go to someone and say with some certainty, this is where we're going to land from a pricing commercial point of view. I think this is quite huge. So having like the audit that the guys do expose this and give real financial protection to my customers is huge. Another one would be facts over opinions. There's lots of people with lots of opinions, especially the guys that own the estate. And as an impartial third party, the data doesn't lie. So as long as you've got the tools which these guys bring that really gets the data to lead the decisions, and it's a data-led precision in that way, you're in a place where it's a completely infinitely better place to be able to justify what you do and how you do, and the planning and then the execution part of it. So I think that's really important.
Mike, you want me to just build on a couple? Let me read on a couple of those threads you just spoke about briefly. But minimum business interruption is critical. So this assessment comes in, it gives you a thorough, data-driven, fact-driven, like you said, output in a very short 2, 4, 6, or 8 week period of time. Depends on how complex your systems are. That's number one. Number two, it will give you the horsepower to go, or the credentials, let's say, to go to the board and saying, this is our current snapshot. This is our gap for our licensing. This is our current licensing. This is our current OCM, or organizational change management. This is our personnel gap going forward. And this is the future state we need to go to. So you have more ammunition to talk to your board critically about what they want to do and which way they want to go. So this is, and last but not least, as we work with your clients together, we always make the boss look good. Our job is to give you the proper information in the format you need for your board. And then we'll be with you on that board presentation as a trusted advisor as well. Our goal is to become a long-term relationship with the client and the company. So we like to show you the crossroads, build off your data on this report, including with John on the call right now, legacy data of cost savings, ROI savings in licensing retirement, API retirement, and that gap knowledge, creating that SAP Center of Excellence internally, which you will need. We're going to call that out and show that to you on the roadmap forward. So all this with the goal of OPEX net zero with AI strategy. That's our goal to give you. I hope I answered some of those questions. Mike?
I think there's one other important thing that Mike touched on there as well that you can pull out of these assessments is the fact that I can't remember who the famous politician was who said it, but there's lots of known unknowns and unknowns in these things. Donald Rumsfeld, was it?
Yeah.
But I think it was, yeah. So there's a lot of things that clients, before embarking on this kind of assessment, they don't know. And this assessment can bring out a lot of those things that they don't currently know. And those things can have massive impacts on which direction they take, and often cost impacts as well, which is extremely important when you're thinking about a big migration like this, because not only is it a big upheaval to the organization as a whole, but it can also be extremely costly if you don't tease out all of these potential issues up front. So that's why I think these assessments are so valuable before you actually take any decision around migrating to the cloud or migrating wherever.
And John, that kind of tees off, Mike, if you're comfortable, I'll go with the next step in the motion. So let's speak positive. Let's say we go forward with a assessment with your team, and we give a nice high quality output governance report, minimum business interruption to your team. The next step would be a proof of an actual pilot project to do a stand up with, say, our colleagues with AWS, Azure, or Google, to do a stand up in the cloud S4HANA instance with, say, order to cash as an accelerator. We have a number of order accelerators we can bring, and it will actually show you the trusted data that needs to go in. It'll show you the KPIs of how to manage this. It'll quantify that OPEX discussion. Our goal is to show you in retirement of legacy data, quality data, instead of 10 terabyte, you're 2 terabyte of quality data, how to move 2 terabytes into the cloud, not 10, how to help you into that motion, including with an AI strategy. This will all be codified with your data in a pilot program, our step 2. And at that junction, you really are well-versed. Your board is well-versed on what to do. We're that trusted advisor. And then we can work with your SI. We can work with Accenture, Deloitte, PwC, with your other thought leadership team and help you forward in that next motion as well. So it's really earning your trust with the assessment, helping you present to the board credibly, and then saying, we'd like to validate this with your database, with your current data in a pilot program with your data and your leadership team. And then we have a real tangible roadmap together to go forward. I hope I answered that question.
I'm going to go back to Mike. So this assessment, first of all, I love the collaboration here on the screen. I love the collaboration here with the experts because that's what happens in this process. With this assessment, we talked about, even in your opening statements, you talked about truth and trust, and then John just talked about what we don't know. But Mike, you said the data doesn't lie. So it sounds like in this assessment, we get a really good snapshot, as Rich called it, of where we are, things we didn't know, as John was saying. How long, first, before we go into this next section, how long does this assessment take typically? What are we expecting? How would I serve that up to my board to talk about?
So in my experience so far, and Rich, obviously you've probably had more experience of other people than just me, but anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks, depending on size and complexity of the environment. So we're really talking about a very quick timescale. If I compare that to what people have been doing, I've been in conversations where they've spent a year trying to get to a place and failing to the same place.
We don't have a year.
Right.
We don't have a year to wait to
Majority of
spend.
the time, they're already behind the curve, actually. Most of the time, there's debt to get over. But you're absolutely right. If it's a kind of Back to the Future moment. Lots of these people that are really bringing out the complexity of this are also in silos and in their day job. And something Rich didn't really bring out, but I think I'll say it. One of the things that the guys do is like I don't know how it's possible actually, but the drag on the company is so low, like this minimal business interruption, which
you mean while the assessment's going on and while the process is going on, little drag. That's important.
Imagine a third party says to you, hey, I know you've been spending 6 months, 12 months trying to work this out. If you give us 6 weeks and give us some access to some stuff, then we'll be able to give you this utopia report. This is how it looks to the customers on the outside. And we have to do reference calls often to show people what this really means and what it looks like,
Sure.
and for them to believe it. But imagine that you can go to like a big bank, let's say, and in 8 weeks, you can tell them drains up. This is everything you need to know. And the amount of impact that's had on their staff is almost minimum. That is for me it's a soft benefit, but it's actually, people don't give that enough credit. BAU, being able to carry on as business as usual, is the reason why it didn't get done in the first place most of the time, right? And it's that need to get every SME they have in the room, some of which don't have the experience to do any of this stuff because they haven't done the migration before, or they've been working on this environment, but they can't talk to you about what S4HANA is, or what the next iteration of SAP they're going to is, for example.
Yeah.
So Rich, I guess you can chime in here because you have a lot more experience, but for me, that's a big outstanding point that didn't come up yet.
Can I just
Well,
make a point there?
the people side too, the cost and the people side, when they hear that they can continue their day jobs. I think that's a big psychological factor of this too, is you are giving me that confidence that you can handle the complexity and I can continue to do what I do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Rich, you want to speak to that? Or John?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well, though, that often when I speak to clients, when we're dealing with legacy systems, or in the past when I was dealing with big migrations, one thing that they don't often think about is, as Mike brought up the example of a bank, what does a bank do? A bank they're into banking. They shouldn't really be a big IT operation. They should be banking and they should be making profits.
They get to focus.
Exactly,
Right.
and driving the business forward. And if their people are often being diverted, that's one question I always ask these leaders in those types of organizations is, how much time are your people spending on fixing legacy systems, or, cranking the handle on the old system, or making this work or making that work? And they don't often recognize that as a cost to the organization, but it's a huge cost to the organization, because every minute they're spending not driving the business forward, it's like a double cost, because they're paying that person's salary and it's costing the business money because they're not, engaging in the primary business operation, what they're all there to actually do. So
there may not be metrics around it. We just think, oh, that's cleaning the closet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you add those metrics, then you really see the cost, but the people cost and the drag on the people. So just that they're having to do this versus moving forward. So, all right, great. Who would like to take the next
Let me
step?
just
Because I
jump
know
real
we need
quick.
to move into a next section.
One of the things it's a big conundrum for many people. They've spent a lot of money, millions of dollars on their internal systems, and they've built up a large machine that they might not need as much going forward, but they're not sure how to approach it. They have a lot of OPEX they own. This will be unpacked in our assessment. We'll come to them and show them your large data centers. You really only need 60% of those data centers. This other 40% is not needed in the future state. And we'll show them the business case for that. And then we'll show them their peers. We'll show them their peers, how their peers are doing it for competitive advantage. So this is a real important piece. And one more thing, post-COVID, many people have been downsized and different people change jobs. And so what you had before of an SAP practice internally, you might only have in tatters now. You might have a few support staff. So we come up to be a SAP Center of Excellence. We help them augment that with organizational change management and show them that gap that they have internally for their future state, and show them the best way to go for that, whether it's to build new people in-house or to partner and keep their total costs low. So this is another output of our assessment, which is critical. Back to you. Back to you, Gene.
So thank you. And Mike, so we've talked about assessment and we've talked about legacy systems on the end, which I know we'll hit a little bit more before we close. But in the middle, so after we've presented this report, then what does it look like for my company at that point?
Yeah, I think the actionable intelligence you get from the report makes it pretty straightforward to then plan accordingly with the customer. It depends on the appetite for the customer, how it's resourced. It can be an entire lift that can be resourced by people like ourselves and the team on this call, actually, and the people in their teams to do either a partial overlay, a full outsource. Like, it really, every option's on the table at that point. And I would say that is really dependent on the customer. But the difference there is that it's a very clear view as to what the roadmap needs to look like for that change. Now, I'll give you some ideas. So again, customers have had deadlines that needed to be hit. So we might look at, you have 12 months to do this. Make me a plan that makes that possible. Here's the people I have available to me. None of them have this experience. So draw me a matrix that says, here's the overlay team that needs to sit with the team that I have internally. Tell me how it impacts my day to day, and then go ahead and show me what that looks like in both cost and effectiveness. And again, that is built into, does the business case for the migration pay for all of this? So one of the beautiful things about having such an assessment up front is that we almost have this completely a non-found, it's actually never been documented before, most of these savings. So both license and people, all these other things that we've just described, if it's possible, it's not always the case, but if it's possible, you don't need to go find new budget as long as the execution delivers the budget that we've forecasted. And bearing in mind, that's again not opinions, that's more data driven. It sort of stands up to internal scrutiny. So we tend to find a return on investment case that says we can do this transformation and save you money, and it all pays for itself. So the title of this entire process has been called, in some, I think, Richard, you have a term called net zero, which is your coin phrase for this, right?
Yeah. Net-Zero OPEX.
And what we're getting at there, as I believe that I pitch to my customers, is, if I could give you an upside down version of what you think might need to happen, you're probably thinking transformation and change in this level is going to cost you X, and you'll realize some value over a 3 to 5 year period. What if I could tell you that by doing this assessment up front, in 8 weeks, we can highlight to you the areas and opportunity you have. You don't have to take it, of where you could save those monies, and then put that back into the pot to then realize the transformation in itself, therefore making it a net zero migration. And that is where the full circle comes in.
Yeah.
Well, what I hear is, sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a much faster time to value as well for these people. So, if they can get there quicker and realize the benefits of, implementing new technology, digital transformation, that it's not only net zero, but it can actually improve the overall outlook for the company, improve their bottom line by, implementing this digital transformation faster than they would have done otherwise. So
let me give you one example, just 30 seconds. Clean core. When you have clean data, trusted data, a higher score of trust on your data, this is what we can recommend and show you. That's applicable for AI, applicable for analytics, applicable for budget and forecasting, applicable for supply chain. Keep going. So these values that we unpack for you in having this motion we're doing to help you in that future state can help you lower your OPEX, increase your margins, and be more competitive and hyper grow. Because our goal is to help you hyper grow. At the end of this, it's not just about getting to S4HANA. It's about getting to S4HANA with AI and then growing. Yeah. And that's really what we can help you do as well.
And there's a reason why most big businesses at the moment haven't let AI loose on their core data, because the data's a mess. It's most organizations have got 16 copies of the same file. They've got, data silos all over the place. If you release AI into that, you end up with a bad AI model. So clean core, as Rich said, is the very first step towards properly implementing an AI strategy as well.
Right. That's right.
So it's the combination of AI and humans, obviously, in this. And that's one of the things that really impresses me about this team. Can you talk a little bit about, when we're talking about trust, it's in both the data and in the humans that are doing the collaboration, both within whatever internal company you're working with, as well as this team. So can you talk a little bit more? I know we have 3 of our experts and thought leaders here. Who else is on the team as far as companies? Who else do you partner with and work together so that people can get the feel of, obviously they can watch all the episodes, but for this one, if you can talk about who else you work with and why it works for both the company and why you're able to do it in such a, you're dealing with complexity, but you're doing it in the quickest time possible, and getting them the best outcomes, not just for now, but as you said, for the future. Mike, you want to take that, or who would like to take that?
Yeah, no, I'll start. I think the reality of our position in that is that we know our customers inside out, and what Rich and the team will rely on is that we have got first of all, the right C-level sponsorship, which is super important when you're trying to hit objectives and you're trying to get the company to move in a way that needs to be coherent and focused and in a single direction. And no one argues with the boss of the top of the company, so that always helps. The point of that then is that the handover is pretty smooth. So the fact that we have an intimate knowledge of the customer and we have the relationships accelerates the guys to be able to take their experts in, get sponsorship, and get everybody on the same path very quickly. So I would say for me, what our team was very good at is bringing that to the table, and I lean heavily on the team for the SME side from when it comes to the SAP, the tooling and the strategy around that. They've brought some of the world leading tools to the table as part of the package, and I'm sure Rich will unpack that for you as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to go to John next, and then I'll come back to you, Rich, to wrap up.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that is, you alluded to the team that we're pulling together here. It's and the reason I like this approach is that we're bringing experts from, we're bringing best of breed organizations, experts in their field, rather than, dare I say it, I worked for IBM for 10 years. IBM will come and tell you the answer is always IBM, because they've got this breadth of experience. But have they got the best of the best in each area? So the beauty of this approach is we can select the best people for the job in each particular area and bring those areas forward in a comprehensive kind of package for the customer. So that's how I see a big benefit in this.
It's brilliant. Rich, I'll go to you.
Yeah, the key word that John said was trust. That he just said trust. We want to earn trust. We want to be a valued, trusted advisor to the board. And we think doing this assessment, this for a smaller company could be 2 to 4 weeks. For a larger, could be like Mike said, 6 to 8 or 12 weeks, depends on the size and complexity of the opportunity for us to work together. But we want to earn that trust through the client, through the directors, to their board with them. And then the second gate would be to prove it with a pilot program, with their data, with AWS, with an order to cash, to show them how a clean core looks in analytics, in AI, and then help them to the next gates. So trust is earned. And we would like to step out and earn trust with these clients today and forward with them. And that's the purpose of our assessment, purpose of our collaborative team with Mike's leadership. And we're excited about being here with the team.
I'll make a point for you, Rich, just to highlight something, because the question was about who else is in the team as well. Sure. And I'll give you a highlight. Just this week, I won't talk about who, but a major banking company I was on a meeting with the team, and 15 people were on that call. And there was every corner of every SME covered with a global team that had been there, done it. I think everybody that introduced themselves said they had more than 15 years plus of experience in this particular subject matter. That was not on my side. And I was sitting there going, this is an advisory board that everyone would dream of. And I think the depth and breadth of the expertise is not a few people, it's a small army, along with the methodology and the practices. And I think the combination of both of those things, particularly that makes this assessment good, which is what we're here about, but actually for the entire organization, you would love to have that team being the guys running your environment, I would say, because they could tell you everything you need to make from a strategic decision down, how to do it best in breed. And they have the most relevant and up-to-date information with all the market trends and change that happen out there. And for something as wieldy as SAP, and John mentioned Oracle is another classic example, you really don't need to underestimate what that impact is. If these people are experts, they really make a big impact to the business. And I would say the team that rolls up every time consistently smashes it out of the park, and probably over delivers most of the time on that free advice part in the pre-sales motion, and then delivers twice as good when we actually get them in front of our customers. So
I love the visual of the advisory board being there, because it is, and in working with all of you in just the time that we've been working together, I see that. I see the collaboration, and I see the first word you used today, each of you in some way or another, was complex, the complexity of it. And I think you've got the team that matches that complexity of it. John, I'll come to you for a last statement, and then we'll go back to Rich and finish our show today. I could talk to you for a long time, but I thank you so much for all of this.
I think just on that complexity point, it's a really good point to bring out here as well, because, as Mike said, you've got this group of people with a breadth of experience. we've all seen these things go bad in the past.
Yeah.
We've all seen migrations that
Probably felt the pain. Probably felt the pain
exactly.
yourselves.
We've seen the pain that clients have gone through. We've seen, expensive migrations that have failed midway through and all of that kind of thing. So, having that, and I think that, the point Mike made is that people are over delivering in the advisory stage because we don't want to see it go bad. We want to help customers to, launch into the migration on the right footing and do something that's going to benefit them, rather than, as we've seen in the past, where people just think, well, I'm going to move everything to the cloud. They embark on something, they didn't plan it out beforehand, the whole thing fails, it becomes costly, and then, you've got to try and unpick all of them disasters and mistakes. So, we're pretty much here to try to help customers not fall down those traps. And with the experience that we've got, it's valuable to help people not fall into those traps.
That's important. I remember one of my clients saying that their entire accomplishment going through a migration, not this one, but just going through a migration of a system, and they said, that's what we accomplished last year. Not anything else. And so what I hear from you all is you're doing this migration, and it's underneath while you're still able to be productive and effective in what you do as in your day jobs, as you've said.
Exactly.
So, Rich, I will bring it back to you to wrap up, and then I'll say some final words to the three of you.
Sure. Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're excited with, obviously, Michael's leadership, John's leadership, and Jeannie's leadership on this call. We feel confident that we can be your trusted advisors for your migration for S4HANA with an AI strategy. We feel confident that we can give you board-level reporting in a very short period of time, a world-class report and a roadmap forward for your team. And we'd like the opportunity to take the next step with your leadership team. We have a landing page that Jeannie will allude to later on in the rest of this presentation for the next steps, and we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you.
Well, I thank you all. That was Richard Fitzharris with World IT COE, Mike Wynn with Amsol, and John Walsh with Black Dog Cloud. But together they represent this team that can help you with your SAP migration and with AI strategy and moving from ECC to S4HANA. It is a complex conversation that we had today. It is a complex issue that people are dealing with. The urgency is real. The time, even between episodes, it gets closer and closer to that time frame. And so my question to all of you is, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you choose this team to work with you to not only keep your businesses going, but also to help with all of the data and to build that trust and integrity in your own companies. So I thank you all for being with us today. We will look forward to seeing you on a future episode of Net-Zero OPEX for SAP migration. And we look forward to seeing you. I'm Dr. Jeannie Snyder. Thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to your visiting our landing page as well as the ebook about this process and working with this team. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, John. See you soon.
Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Jeannie Snyder, and we appreciate your being a part of this conversation. And if you would like to learn more about SAP migration for your company and how you can work with World IT COE, please reach out directly to Rich Fitzharris, and that is R. Fitzharris, FITZHARRIS at worlditcoe.com. We'll see you on the next episode.